Okay, you're on.
Yeah, especially with this, I'm like, what? When I opened it, I was like, no.
Business must be good.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown now?
I'm not. Is he not going to be here?
Well, he's been pushing it here lately. Forcing me.
Sonny said he might be here too. He's coming.
Should we go ahead and start? Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Now call this work session to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the invocation and the pledge. I'd like to ask Mr. McPherson to lead us in the invocation and Councilmember Griffiths to lead us in the pledge.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for the freedom to live in this country, to have and elect our leaders, and we pray your guidance upon them as they do the things that are best for this community. We pray your special blessings this day on the Nunley family as they celebrate Cliff Nunley's homegoing. We pray all these things in your name, for in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any citizens that wish to address the council tonight? Okay, if there are none, we'll go right into item 4, discussion of appropriating funds from the fund balance for capital expenditures. City Manager David Bowling.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I have the memo in here, and I know this is something we've talked about. It's really a continuation of the conversation that we've had for months regarding the bond issue that we're doing, both for the refinancing and the $2.5 million in new capital funding. As part of that conversation, some of the needs that we have identified and some we just knew didn't really make sense for long-term financing. And so kind of pushing some of those aside, replacing them with things that made better sense, and looking for alternate ways to fund some of these needs. We're in a position right now, as you guys know, that obviously we've been very lucky with revenue, and coupled with the fact that we didn't tap into our fund balance last year to fund capital needs. So The plus side of that is our fund balance was able to grow and recover a little bit. The flip side of that is we had some needs that didn't get met. So we want to take a look at some of those this year, along with the other things that we're doing. And I've submitted for your consideration $350,000 from the fund balance to do four things. We have vehicle purchases for Parks and Recreation and the police department, and all these are part of our 5-year capital plan, and also the radio purchases for radio replacements for the fire department and police department that were originally in the $2.5 million, but again, we didn't necessarily feel like was appropriate for 20-year financing. As I mentioned in my memo, you know, and I've talked about this before, we got out of the practice several years ago of balancing our budget with the fund balance, which is one of the best things, bits of fiscal policy I think this council could have done, and been able to use that for less reoccurring expenses that aren't part of our operating budget, and we want to continue that this year. Our audited fund balance at the end of last year was 1.13 million. We don't have our audited numbers yet. That'll be another month or two until that process starts. But our estimates are that we exceeded expenditures by just over $1 million last year. So that, along with the fact again that we didn't utilize it last year, our fund balance is more than healthy enough to absorb these, and these are for critical long-term needs that we've had for a while that we have a chance to meet without going into debt. So I think that's a positive any time we can do that, and certainly something that council should be proud of the fact that we can even consider this. So I'd like to bring that to your attention, and if you approve it, if there's something you put on the approve to put on the agenda, we'll have a budget amendment. We need to do one anyway for the funds from the bond issue. Once we get it, we'll have a fund balance done, so we'll be able to take that revenue in. So if you agree to this, we'll add that to that budget amendment next week.
Okay. Council, anyone have anything on this?
Put it
Mr.
on the
Brown?
agenda.
David, what kind of lead time? Have you checked on the vehicles yet to see if they're available at all?
Just a little bit. I know that JR's talked. They have a couple things in. Said they may have access to what they don't have that they can maybe find. This is talking to the Ford dealership in Murfreesboro, the same place we got my truck. So he didn't feel like anything would be too far out, but we haven't engaged him too much till we see where this goes tonight. But I'd say it's probably just hit or miss when you might get it. So.
And if we approve all 4 of these items, all of these will be on the state
Yes.
list to buy the radios
Yes.
and all that good stuff. And I'm assuming we're buying the next generation radios.
Yeah, and I actually have one. It's in my office if anybody wants to see it. The Chief Gordon dropped off one that they're looking at. It's the next generation radio. The only difference with it is it's waterproof. It's a sturdier radio for all the abuse, so it should hold up better. But yeah, all this will be on state contract. We won't have to bid any of it. So.
What name brand radio?
The fire department's a Motorola. The ones the police department are looking at, what are they? Harris. So, so like I said, that's in my office. If anybody wants to see it, there's a demo of it. So, again, yeah, we're fortunate that we're in position to be able to do some of these things, and you know, this year, especially coming out of the environment we've been in, to be able to meet a lot of these needs, this is a pretty productive.
And we're
something that city's
definitely
gonna
not getting
benefit.
Parks and Rec vehicles before we needed them, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it's probably this will represent, to my knowledge, the first new vehicles that Parks and Rec's ever had.
Yeah.
So in the history of the department.
One more thing, on these Parks and Rec vehicles, so we get 3 new ones, that means we get rid of 3.
Old ones.
I mean, yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
we don't
one
have have that many.
mentioned
but-
from Rockwood Electric, did we get that one already? That
No,
we're gonna
as soon
get?
as their new trucks come in,
We'll get it. Does anybody else have anything?
What was that about Rockwood Electric? What was that about Rockwood Electric?
They're getting new trucks and they're surplus us and Rockwood one, and Park and Rec will be getting it in, 2008 or 9, I can't remember. A little over 100,000 miles, give them a truck, so Park and Rec will be actually having another truck in it, that new.
Big,
They're
big,
surplus, one to Rockwood for 1,000, one to us for $1,000.
big step forward.
Yeah.
A big
That's
step
right.
forward for them.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, David, you wanna just add that to the agenda for next week?
I will, thank you.
Okay, item 5, discussion of funding welcome signage. Councilmember Tara Stockton.
One of the things that I asked Kelly to print, you'll see is the plans where just a city, Ducktown, they sent in a full signage improvement for their entire city. When I talked with the mayor, and he knows as far as on being on the Rona Alliance, the funding that is remaining on their books. And I think he was, a little confused on how, like, what exactly the gateway signage that we were referring to is the signage that would be at the interstate. And on page 30, you'll see in the packet, is like an example of that town, what was proposed, depending on how the land is, as far as how the engineering design was made. But, of course, I mean, the design for Kingston, I mean, we have a fantastic area that has been, prepped for signage, and, this signage has been something that we've been trying to work to do something at an affordable way to propose, to the state, and we tried working and meeting with an engineer company, David and I did, just to see if that was something they would work with us on this plans, because we have the Tennessee Technology School that is willing to, build this as a project, that would work in line with the engineering company overseeing the project. As far as I know, this would be something that TDOT may or may not approve, but at the same time, I know the first step is going to be a drawing that would have to be rendered, that would have to be purchased, because we've went other routes and we're keeping on getting that stopped. So in order to move forward in having any kind of signage at the interstate, you have to have that total from the 15-page requirements, meeting that in the plans. The school could take it from the plans and build it and be right at spec, but being able to do that would take the plans to do it, and that's not something we can just create the plans ourselves. So it'd have to be a company that would be willing to work with the school in order for this to be successful. And I was just seeing if this is something that the council's interested in, if you're interested in having a sign at the interstate that says Kingston, it's talking with Rhone Alliance, other businesses. I mean, it's really an important step in really recognizing your city as far as having the proper signage at the interstate. So that's my little example to give to you and see what your thoughts were.
So what are we being asked for? Just if we want a welcome sign?
Well, I guess it's two things. One, if that's something that the council is prepared to have the city manager look at options for us as far as firms that would be, willing to propose this plan for us. And I think we had started with signage program that Rhone Alliance was gonna do that really wasn't anything that the city was doing at all. It was just really Rhone Alliance trying to uniform all three cities. But by doing that, none of the city, it was not gateway signage, it was actually just the the breakaway signage that is, just was on the road right away. And so it was not something that would be a gateway monumental style signage that is actually, has to have a plan.
I could have sworn that
Actually,
Wade,
it was, 'cause
yeah.
we discussed it with the TVA money when it come in.
yeah, it was stone, flagstone, it
Yeah,
was,
we talked about that, being part of the
I think
TVA
ours had
money,
an anchor on it
stone and
or something
everything
like
had
that.
that place.
And what's sad
I'm on the line
is,
here when we done it.
is we asked for those drawings for that, and the only drawings that we received was the ones that was the welcoming signs, that actually was all the way down at the bottom, that was as soon as you get into town, it's the only thing we've ever received.
Yeah, they, we saw the renderings for every city, because every city had a different emblem on it that, you know, invoked what that city was known
Right.
for. And it was flagstone, it was wood, it was fairly large, if I remember. That's a shame that all that's been rendered and lost.
The, just a little background on that, you know, as you said, this started when Wade Crest was the Alliance, and they had a firm, went through a couple of different people within that firm, but my guess is probably when they didn't get the business, their plans and renderings went with them. So I don't know exactly how much money the Rhone Alliance has left
None.
from that. How much?
None?
9,000.
Oh, okay.
Do you know if they would
Wait,
give
just,
us that
wait,
to go
wait.
toward?
Is it just for Kingston, the 9,000? Okay.
So
And this is from a meeting that we had with Rhone Alliance, just to discuss what they were willing to do on participation. And this is what was said, nothing in writing, but this is the amount that she's been holding on to for signage, cause she has money for all 3 cities.
And how much money are we talking about?
9,000's all it keeps. Oh, as
No.
far as that,
Yeah, how
engineering?
much money?
Oh, it's gonna be way exceeding 9,000.
I know,
Yeah.
but as far as
I
like,
wouldn't even guess. I mean, because it could be just the engineering cost and the plans, and then the material, if we're able to have the school be approved to do that.
Have we checked with any of the other cities? Cause I know Cleveland just had a new one put up, and we were down there and talking about it. And it's totally different from all the others that you see around.
Mhm.
It was really, it was like a raw art, really.
I talked to Lenore City, as far as theirs that is at the junction, that was done as part of that project of, extending the 321, which being a state highway and how it merged. And, that intersection that has 4 Lenore City signs, gateway signs, that's not at the interstate, but they're in that intersection. And, it was part of that package deal, as far as that entire package of the improvements from TDOT. So it wasn't something that was just a standalone sign, and that's the thing that we ran across with the first engineering company that we wanted to see if they wanted to be involved in, and they didn't really do a standalone sign plan. It was like something that they put with a larger plan, as far as like a large grant that might be from TDOT on.
Probably smart if we check in and see if they got anything going like that.
well, probably, and if this is something y'all wanna do, what I'd like to do is, you know, I have no problem finding a firm. I mean, that's no problem. There's dozens of firms that would gladly look at doing this, but find a firm that would be applicable and have them come to a workshop, because they're gonna wanna know before they can draw something up and spec it out. They're gonna wanna know what we want, and, you know, with 7 people may have 7 different opinions on what kind of signage they want. So if we could have somebody here at a workshop, then they could get that feedback, and then maybe based on that, they could give us a proposal, so.
I'm gonna forward this to everybody. I found the drawings in my old Kingston email
Who's the
before.
firm?
Who's the firm?
Yeah.
There's no firm on there. It's just, Lars Paulson.
Okay, yeah, they're,
That's his name. It was rendered February 3rd, 2017. And there's actually a price breakdown as well. They
Brown?
sent us wayfinding, and
Wayfinding was the only thing that they.
it was wayfinding, and then the,
But again, you know, whatever they render is gonna depend on what you want, how
yeah,
big, what materials.
I've got
and-
all of them for Harriman, that's Kingston, well, Kingston, Harriman, Rockwood, so I'll forward it. It's not, the pricing isn't going to be the
Well-
same, of course,
No.
but,
The other thing is that one was not approved by TDOT that they rendered
right.
on that one.
These are actually smaller from what I'm gathering, if that's what we're going for, it's much, this is much smaller,
Yeah,
than what's in this packet, so I would say it's,
well, and the large amount of property that's at the exit, if you don't do something large, it's not gonna be seen.
right. It's a lot of money.
Mr. Brown, do you have anything?
Where are they talking about? And they, I'm assuming is, who's presenting this to us?
Well, this is from the beautification. We went out and, looked at the exits just to see as far as if it could even meet the requirements that TDOT required, and with the property at the exit, it's very easy to meet those requirements. It's just the part about having,
So where were they talking about putting it?
well, I mean, there's numerous spots. I mean, the ideal thing would be great to have it, in an area that either can be seen from, both directions, whether even if it's once you pass it, or even better than that would be two, would be fantastic. But if it's something as large as this, you know, it might not be feasible to do two, unless that we can get two in a drawing. Then that would be like in those areas that are, as you come in, if you were going, east, would be, the large, property off, yes, off the left.
That's what we're looking for, we talked about having it there, if you're coming down the eastbound off ramp to the left, as soon as you top over the hill, you can see it, as soon as you top over the hill, the other way you can see it. If you're going from Johnson City to Nashville, you wanna know where Kingston's at, even if you stop or not, but you'd see it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, David,
Again, there's TDOT.
when do you think you would be able to do
I mean,
what
if
you
you-
suggested?
If you all want somebody to come in, I can invite somebody to next month's workshop, and they can come in and,
Is this for engineering?
yeah, design. Cause whatever I mean, you know, basically the process is gonna be, you're gonna pay somebody to come in and spec this out per TDOT standards, and then it ultimately has to go to TDOT. So, I mean, it could be that they go to them and they deny it, but, I mean, that's just a risk you gotta take, but the first step would be to have an engineer come in and try to get enough feedback from council to determine what you want, and then they can draw up, I'm sure, whatever you want, but I can't just go to an engineer and say, okay, we want you to spec out this, cause I don't know what you guys want in a welcome sign, so.
That sounds like a plan to me, council.
I don't know if you've got time for next time to get the council together and find out what they want to tell the engineer. One thing you gotta bear in mind, if you're talking about putting it on the westbound side, you know, that interchange is still under engineering to redo all of that.
Yeah.
So you don't know what the land is gonna look like when they get through with it. So they
That's
may
a good point.
determine that they can't even, nothing can go on that side. I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll have it all tore up.
It's on the right, and then where the off ramp used to go up through there, I mean, it's visible from eastbound road.
There's actually multiple
Yeah,
spots to do.
all I would do would be just to invite an engineer to come and start the conversation. And, you know, maybe based on that workshop, may be able to get enough information to draw you up an idea or a couple of different ones or whatever, but conversation's gotta start somewhere. So if
Right.
you all want me to, I'll be happy to find an engineer and invite him to,
And you talk about Harriman's money, evidently they're giving them their money because they have ordered signage for Harriman. I met with the mayor today. And didn't even, I'm gonna tell myself I didn't read my packet till this afternoon.
Shame.
Well, I've been in quarantine, I've got a story about being in quarantine. But the mayor said that they spent $40,000 and all of theirs is breakaway signage because they had so many entrances that they're trying to put them at every entrance. And that they were having trouble, other than the breakaway signs on the interstate.
Hmm.
That on their property, they were trying to get the right of ways because they run into what Sandy and I talked about, or Sandy brought up a month or two ago, was that where they wanted to put them, there wasn't any right of way, and people said, I don't want that in my yard, you can put it on your yard, don't put it on my yard. So
Yeah.
they were having trouble finding places to put them, so they ended up doing metal post, and I think they said the biggest sign they had was 4 by 8 or something. But they were $40,000, time they got all of them, said that's what they had budgeted to spend, just for information.
Yeah, the last estimate, it looks like we had was $50,000. And that would construct 4 welcome signs and 5.5 wayfinding signs, but like I said, that's, 4 or 5 years ago
And I
now.
don't know why we would just have $9,000 left. This came from the county is who it came from. This money is part of the TVA, if I remember right, is part of the TVA, I'm sorry, money.
Mhm.
And if they gave so much for each town, and Wade's goal was to buy 1 engineer, 1 sign designer, 1 construction company, and pool all the money together and get them all at the same time.
This email states that there is $70,000 available from the Alliance, 30,000 each from the cities, for a total pool of 160,000.
So maybe David needs to call and find out from Mr. Woody if the county's spent any of theirs that I'm not aware of, or if Rockwood has spent some. If somebody got more than $9,000 doesn't jive from
No, it
what
doesn't
we
sound-
remember.
So David, if you wanna go ahead and see if you can get somebody to come to next month's workshop, and that'll get us started, we can go from there. Okay, the next thing, item 6, discussion of the proposal submitted by Arcadis for design, right-of-way, and construction services for the Lad Landing STP resurfacing project. David?
So, this is, again, something that we've been talking about, for some time, and, that being the, STP project on Landing Boulevard. Obviously, these projects, as you know, they go very slow, especially on the front end, with some of the steps you have to go through. We finally got to the point where we're ready to engage engineering, for the design, the right-of-way, and construction services. And you got 2 processes the TDOT will let you go through. You can obviously go through a traditional bidding process to find your own firm, or TDOT pre-screens selection of firms for various types of projects, and you can pick one of those and circumvent that process. So, in looking at that, in hopes of saving some time, I asked TDOT to send me the firms that they had that were applicable to this kind of project, and they did. Looking through those, and most of this isn't, obviously, this isn't that technical of a project, but so most any firm can do it. But I looked at firms that have done a lot of these types of projects, looked at a firm that had a local presence, so we're not, so we have somebody close by who can be on site, who can help manage it. And based on a couple different factors, I felt like Arcadis had the best proposal, or the best qualifications. So I asked TDOT to reach out to them, have them draw up a proposal for this project. They did. First went to TDOT. TDOT looked it over, and they approved it. So now it's to us for consideration. Again, this has been screened to meet all of their requirements. Those are steps we don't have to go through. The proposal, in this, the Arcadis proposal is a lot to look through, but their proposal for all these basically turnkey services is $117,507, which would come out of the just over $360,000 work to move forward on the project that has to be done. It's just basically a matter of if you all want to accept this proposal or move forward considering this proposal, or if you want to do something else. I certainly want to bring it to you before we talked about having our case come in or something like that to a meeting. I didn't want to take any more of their time if, if that wasn't the direction we were wanting to go. So I wanted to bring that to you for your thoughts and input. See how you wanna go with it. But, we're finally excitedly to the stage we can really start looking at things like this. So it's progress.
How much money did we put aside, David, you remember right offhand?
48,000 and some change.
So we got $350,000.
Well, we got 311,000 in SDP funds, and put aside 48. Our total is 360,582 is what's currently appropriated for the project, so.
So we're gonna take a third of that away to pay these people to say it's all right to pave. Because we're not gonna need any right-of-ways, because we're paving existing right-of-ways. This is just another, but I don't know what else you do. But here's gonna be the problem. I don't think you're gonna be able to pave with 360,000, well, minus 117, everything that you wanted to pave,
And not, we have to put more money with it.
or stop.
But, it's one of those situations where they almost make you spend so much money that it's not worth, if you say it is, if state or federal money's under a certain amount, it's not worth messing with, but, we have it. But anything we use it for, they're gonna make us go to the T with design and all of it.
How much out of that have we ended up paying Collier?
It just, wasn't much. I have to go back and pull that. We kinda, once Charlie left, a lot of that
Yeah.
kinda hit a wall. We'd be farther along than we were if we lost him. That was a big loss. I make it sound dead. He moved to another country, or went to a city, didn't he?
Yes. At his hometown.
So,
So if, they know that, the state knows and they know that we're wanting to pave, and everybody's happy, state says it's okay, would the state allow us to just spot pave?
I don't know.
And spend that money and not go over? I mean, all of it isn't as bad as some of it.
I know this is the same thing we had to do with North Kentucky.
Yeah.
When we resurfaced it, we still had to have it engineered and had to go through all those hoops. So whether we do one stretch, or look at changing the scope,
I mean, I think, or I envision paving from right down here all the way over to the end. I just don't think at $130-something a ton that you're not gonna get the tonnage to do that. That's how long is that? 2 or 3 miles long?
It's in the, exactly, it's 1.634 center line miles.
One way.
Yes.
So-
Well, yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, 'cause it's got to be more than that for one way. So it may be that, and I'm just throwing this out there, that when it comes down to it, we've not put any extra money in it other than that 48,000. It may be that we just pay one side of it until we do something else, unless this council wants to dip in. I mean, I'm thinking it's gonna cost another $200,000.
Yeah, I don't think we would have of course, obviously we wouldn't know until we start getting prices, but, I don't think we have enough here to do it. I think like you said, the big question would be, we wanna dig into a little more money
Yeah.
and do the whole thing, but, we're just not at that point. But I don't know, I'd have to check with TDOT. I don't know if we change the scope, if they make us go
Start
back
over
to step one or not.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So you were just gonna ask them to come to the workshop in October
If you
and
want to.
talk to us, council? Any problem with that?
What a sticker shock.
Okay.
Engineering is not cheap, and they make you do a ton of it, but, again, I can have Arcadis come, if you want, we can back up the pipe, whatever.
Do we want them to come in October or do a little more checking before we have them come?
Yeah, I want Tony to be here and for him to ask questions, because I'm fascinated, because you're right, now that I'm looking at, I mean, they're charging us for right of way and all that stuff, and
I mean, what a report,
It's-
great
it's-
report if you want to, you know, the reason you do reports like this is because they've
To
done
bury.
it before and just to hide stuff, give them
Yeah.
a lot to read.
yeah. Cause the road's already there, everything's already
But the same
acquired.
thing happened when we used this money when we did 58.
Yeah,
We had to go through the Cherokee Indians, we had to talk about right-of-ways, we had to do this and this and this for the same thing, and we're not purchasing, and they know that,
yeah,
but they make them do it anyway.
mm.
That's the reason it costs so much.
So, does it even make a difference then?
I just don't think, it depends on what this council wants to do. When you come and talk to them, they give us a tonnage and it goes out on bid. And of course, we're gonna miss the paving season for this year anyway. It's going into next year. It's coming, if you decide to do it, it'll be April before you do
Probably
it.
higher next year.
Now then, since we started this, paving by ton has probably gone, I wish Tim was here, it's
Yeah.
probably gone up $9, $10, $20 a ton. And when you put it out on one of these, it's not like, and I'm assuming they would bid all that we've got to put that back out to bid again. The asphalt, when they engineer it, it's got to go to bid again.
Yeah, and that's all, that's all
In their deal,
They'll
so,
do all that, so.
yeah, so it wouldn't even have done us any good to have the contractor for paving, and then all the crosswalks have got to be painted back in, so you got paving that's got to be done, and, striping. We'll look at that a little bit more, and I'll try to get or I'll run out there and measure it tomorrow and see how wide it is and how long it is. But you know, the reason we put that on there, and the city did a good job when the sewer, or when the water line failed out there, going eastbound, in the eastbound lane. You know, we dug down, and that was what, the 8-inch line, the main line it went through? 12? So it washed all the asphalt away and took the top off everything. So we went back, and you can't tell it now, but all we put back was binder. So all they're talking about doing, I'm assuming, is putting a couple of inches of E-mix back on top of it. That's still holding great. What's not holding is coming down the hill where Matt used to live, at the gate, all that up to the walking trail. So that's the reason I wondered if they'd let us go back and do, 500 foot here, and then skip the part that we did and get the worst of it, and still have it under one project and keep it tonnage instead of completion. Just a thought.
I don't, they may.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I'd say we'd have to go back to square one. Of course, if we change the scope, then this proposal will be irrelevant, but,
So David, do you wanna have him come in October? Let Tony drill him?
You don't need me here. You got engineers, they'll tell you what to go.
Yeah.
You won't like it, but they'll tell you what to go on.
That's what I mean, I don't even think it makes a difference.
and nobody says have to proceed. You go off and pull the plug on this.
Oh my gosh.
It's just, it's one of those things that if you don't spend it, you don't
get it.
but
Mhm.
it's, there's no such thing as free money.
And that'll have to be shut down the whole time with the paving project. I hope everybody realizes that.
First wreck on the interstate, it should be interesting.
Because, they'll pull that in one pull. You don't want a scene in that.
Okay,
At a minimum, I can ask them to come in and present their proposal.
okay.
And then see where you all wanna go from there.
Put a face to where all this money's going to.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, item 7, discussion of road closure request from Jason Taylor for a car show on November 6th. David, Chief?
so we have, a proposal we got a couple months ago, from Jason Taylor, wanted to do another, car show. I believe this one is a benefit, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, you know, he'll wanna close the road again, which is no problem other than the fact that that requires council approval. The difference in this one and the last one that he did was, at least, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but at least based on the way it was requested in August, was he was wanting to close down Cumberland Street and Patton Ferry. And just my opinion, I don't have a vote on it. Obviously, there's no problem with Cumberland Street. I think when you look at Patton Ferry, that could get a lot more problematic. But, however you wanna do it is your call to make, but we can't let him move forward, with his planning until you all authorize the closing of the road in some form or fashion.
Chief, how big a deal is that gonna be to close Cumberland and Patton Ferry?
We can do it, it's whatever you all want us to do. The reason he asked for that additional funding is because there's a Jeep group issue. And after looking at it, Jason and then decided in front of the community center, side to side, that we were close it just for the Jeeps. That's what our conversation was back before they emailed Jason.
Okay.
It's kinda like two car shows, you got a Jeep, and then you got the car show.
So you think that would be okay traffic-wise? It wouldn't cause y'all any major headaches?
If we get it advertised right, we get it closed down a couple hours before they get started. We just have to reroute it.
Oh, so it's not all of Patton Ferry, it's just the section in front of the
This
community
says to
center.
the tennis
Oh, okay.
courts. To the tennis courts. According to this, from Cisco, the other side of Cisco, up to the tennis courts. Anybody else have anything? No? Okay, David, can you go ahead and put that on the agenda for next week, please? Item number 8, discussion of approval to apply for the 2021 Public Entity Partners Driver Safety Matching Grant. David?
This is, it's one of those grants we apply for every year. We get, reimbursed up to a certain amount for qualified expenditures. This one is the driver safety. We did another one a couple months ago, which was, the safety grant. So, this, obviously it would have to be qualified expenditures, but they give us $2,500 reimbursement for, qualified. I think there's a host of things you can use for it, but, this is money that we'll probably spend anyway and get a little bit of it back, so. You apply for these every year, so I'm not telling you anything.
Right. If nobody has anything, go ahead and put that on the agenda for next week. Next thing, item 9, discussion of proposed agreement submitted by Watts Bar Utility District for the treatment of wastewater. And we have WBUD Assistant Manager Wesley Barger here. Would you like to come
Yeah,
forward?
Wesley, come on up, Wesley's, yeah, well, they submitted, this is something that we've been, talking a little bit informally about for a couple of years with Watts Bar. It comes up occasionally, and, in talking with Mickey Barger just, a couple weeks ago, he indicated that it was a little more closer to becoming something they wanted to pursue, so he sent us, a sample, agreement, which there's a copy of in your packet, and I invited him to come here tonight to kinda fill you in a little bit on some of what some of their plans were. He couldn't be here tonight, so, Wesley got stuck with the honor, but, they've got the proposal, so if you wanna take questions, whatever you wanna do, the floor is yours.
Right now, I think that one's for going out towards Long Mountain Marina, to get Long Mountain Marina some sewer.
Yeah, this one is not,
Or it's gonna be a blanket, is it not?
it's
Yeah,
blanket, yeah.
So we don't currently have any connections with them. And so this agreement is, the initial, agreement was for for Long Island to get that part done, to Long Island Marina.
Well, this will be a blanket for any connection, I would imagine, correct?
Yes, that's the way it was submitted. It was basically.
Okay.
Basically the wastewater equivalent of what you have for water. You know, rate would have to be agreed upon, more details, but this is and he said, I think this was a copy of agreement you have with someone else.
Yeah, we have 2 other agreements, and we're on a 3rd.
So, you know, the thought being that this would be, you know, whether it be a connection, again, Long Island Marina or somewhere else, that, you know, before any of that could be pursued, we have to have an agreement to even take wastewater from them, which we don't currently have, so.
Council, anyone have any questions for Mr. Barger?
So, the county is partnering with you guys on Long Island project, or supposed to. That's not been voted on yet.
I don't know if they are or not. I couldn't tell you if they're going to.
Not been voted.
Do I?
It has not been voted.
Oh, that's my question. I didn't think it had been appropriated yet. So this isn't something we have to do right away.
No, I mean, it's, obviously, if you wanna move forward, you know, we could continue negotiations with them, draft up something more detailed, but wanted to give them a chance to come and present this and give you all a chance to answer any questions before we move forward again, going back to, you know, get a feel for if it's something you wanna pursue before we get too deep.
So we got a figure to put in this blank spot?
Haven't got that for you. But
Yeah, it's-
again, they wanna, you know, we can do that, and we can and will bring you something more, a specific proposal.
Okay.
But again, I didn't wanna spend a whole lot of time working on something that council has no interest in doing. So this is to come to you to say, to give me a nod, yes or no, we want you to move on to the next step, so.
And if this is an old cookie cutter form that you use somewhere else, we may have changed the way we do our operation of our sewer plant since this was written.
Yeah,
It keeps referring to a couple of places inside the corporate limits. Everybody's the same now.
Yeah,
We don't have rates outside the city and inside the city, so I don't know, Sandy'd be the one that'd say whether or not that's.
And again, that's don't read too much into that. That's just a sample
Yeah.
to show you kind of where we would start from. So we would build a proposal to fit our needs. This is just one that Mickey sent me and said, here's what we use somewhere else. So again, just wanted to have something to be able to show you. So.
So would we have any problem taking this in, and then, for say, the Kingston Point, if it would come on, would we be able to?
You talking about from a capacity standpoint? Yeah, we're
I
good
think we're only
there.
operating at 15% or something like that.
Well, I think that's
Yeah, we would have to have a whole lot of growth before we have those concerns, but,
And is that cut in stone? How much does that meter cost that you're wanting us to buy?
We're not even there yet. We just gotta
Okay.
have a.
Kevin.
That may be a deal breaker for me if it's a $20,000 meter.
Tony, I'd ask Mickey that question. They're gonna furnish the meter initially, it'll be our responsibility
To maintain.
that. Now, that's the way he explained it. to me.
Because that's the way the water meters are.
We'll
That's-
probably build them all.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think Wesley's right. Mickey, in mind of Mickey's conversation, he'll put everything in place, and then, once that's done, the ownership reverts for us to maintain from there forward.
And I heard we brought up the other subdivision down here. It's gonna be a whole lot different than, this is an easy one. On Watchbar Utilities side also, because you're not crossing any rivers and bridges and all that kind of stuff. And
No, I'm ready
our-
for Long Island Marina to get off
There-
and going.
Yeah, see, our sewer goes, is it Lakeside?
Yes,
And that's where our water stops.
yes, both stop.
Both stop at the same place at that intersection.
Yes.
So it's
far-
easy
as
for
far as
them,
like that.
if they could dodge all those gas lines that they've just recently put in and nobody knows where it's at anymore. Cause they're just whopper jawed out through there, downtown hell, never mind.
Does anybody else have
That's a
anything
rock
for
would say,
him?
whopper jaw. Ask your mom on that.
As you wear green.
So- So basically, I'm assuming by the conversation, I don't see any red flags flying up. So
Not
probably
yet,
the next
no.
step would be, I'll work with Sandy to draft, what we think a decent proposal would be. Then we can bring that back to you to look at it. And if you're still interested in the next step, then we can start talking more earnestly with Watts Bar. But,
Sounds good.
Would it help him if, I don't wanna tell the county how to give their money away, but again, I think this is the easiest one of the two, of the three projects that Mickey's asked for. I think he's asked for three. I think this is one that we could get sewer flowing quicker
Mm-hmm.
than anything else.
That Long Island Marina, regardless, is one.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if any correspondence needed to be made that while we're doing all this stuff and while I'm assuming you're getting all this ready so you can go tell your engineers, here it is, this is how much flow, this is how much they can take, this is how big a line, for us to tell the county that, I don't know if we've endorsed them giving their money, cause we're not gonna give them any money out there, I wouldn't think,
Right.
since the county's gonna give them the money.
Well, they've proposed to give them the money. It's not been voted on yet. I think all discussions about sending letters to the county about ARP funds and all that is better left for our September 28th meeting.
I think what the county does in terms of funding, potentially funding this project will depend on what you all do, because they don't have anywhere to send the wastewater. that-
Yeah, I would think that, I think we're all pretty on board with getting Long Island moving. They've been waiting for 4 years, so it's time to get that.
And for those of you who didn't go, Stephanie and Kelly and David and I went down to the meeting that Mumpower had and went over all this stuff. Watts Bar had somebody there, Mickey was there. All the utilities was there, and of course there was a photo op with senators and state representatives, and by the time we got all the backpacking out of the way and everybody bragging on everybody, we found out that there's 3 or 4 pots of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I read between the lines, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, Kelly took awful good notes. I can't believe I saw her over there scribbling next to me, and she took awful good notes.
She's good at what she does.
But, it was almost like if you put it on water and sewer, either rehabbing old water lines, because then I noticed right after that meeting, Harriman comes out, oh, we've got lead in our
Yep.
pipes, and
Yep.
we're gonna jump over now, and we're gonna start redoing all of our existing water pipes that's got lead in it. Well, nobody never heard anything about that until that meeting, and they said, if you got any old pipes that's got problems, now's the time to do it. But there's another pot of money out there that we can match, maybe not dollar for dollar, to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was encouraged at the meeting about, and.
Yeah, and I had asked the question if, connecting to lines outside of our district, is that allowed? Can we use our money for that? They said yes, but then we talked to some attorneys after that and said, yes, they'll let you spend the money. Is it legal for you to do it is a whole other question. So there's a lot of maneuvering left. They still don't have, final rules from the feds.
They don't have the last final.
Yeah, so there's still some questions out there, but it's exciting to finally be able to get some of these projects done that has withheld growth for a long time, so I'm
And
happy to see it.
As a council member, just warn you, you're fixing to get bombarded with requests. I want $10,000 here, I want $50,000 there, give me this, give me that, and,
Only a small portion qualify,
just
if any.
very, very, well, everything that I've heard that people are gonna ask us for, I don't think qualifies.
Right.
So,
well, and that you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about the matching funds. The whole purpose of them doing that is to try to encourage everybody to go after water and sewer projects,
Yep.
because that's where they want the money spent. You know, a lot of the other stuff's gonna be a stretch, I think,
Yep.
to get approved. And of course, we have the workshop scheduled for the 28th, whatever it is, and, you know, that'll give us a good chance to at least start talking about some ideas on.
Yeah.
And I think, I saw the final, agenda for the TML conference, and obviously that's gonna be a big topic of conversation there, so. But if you want, I'll get with Sandy, we can start kinda drafting what we think a good agreement might look like, and we can bring that back next month, and.
Sounds good.
Wouldn't want to take over the complete water and sewer of Kingston.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the agenda. I'll go around and see if anybody has anything. Councilmember Griffiths, anything? Councilmember Wright?
Nope.
Councilman Brown?
Yeah, you know how I am, I don't ever give up a chance to talk. Guys, I don't know if you drove around and if you've looked or not, but I am impressed with what Kingston, where we're at today, and where we're gonna be in 5 years, when I get off here, 4 years. If you go out into Ladd Landing, they broke ground out there with those 20 houses, new houses, just got through with 40 up here at Pickett Place. Matt Caldwell's got 3 new businesses coming in, the old hardware store. We've got the other 2, Caldwell has moved out and got the old pig building up and going. You know, there's just little stores popping up here everywhere. And then when we see the results of the census that came in that made us the biggest city in town, if that stays the way the census people, there's always appeals on that. You know, I think Kingston is growing, contrary to what some people are saying. And if everything that we're trying to touch comes to fruition, the city of Kingston, even though it's a bedroom community, and I always hear these people say, well, why don't you bring more industry in? Why don't you bring this in? Where would we put it? You know, we've got.
We can't be
Mi-
something we're
We
not.
got $1 million houses out here that
Yeah.
people are buying, you know, people are selling their houses just left and right, wanting to move into Kingston, so, you know, I'm impressed with what we're doing, and I think it's because of y'all as a council and the city manager, and most of all, I think it's because of our employees, that do a great job and take care of all this stuff for us. We try to keep the water rates low, try to keep the taxes low, and, you know, nobody wants to pay all that high stuff, but they want everything. So, again, that's my soap opera for tonight.
I thought you were gonna tell your quarantine story.
Oh, that's terrible. Guys, this COVID is bad.
Way go, Becky.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Becky.
I'm glad you brought that up. My short story is that y'all know I go to this baseball trip, and I went for 2 weeks to Laurel, Mississippi, which is growing just end over end over end over end down there. And there were 39 of us directors from across 11 states. The second day we were there, people started getting sick, and they found out that they had COVID. 9 of the people in the press boxes, not in my press box that I had, ended up with COVID. 6 of them went to the hospital. 2 of them are still in the hospital now, and that was the 1st of August. 2 of them have died. They're burying the state director of Dixie Youth Baseball from Virginia tomorrow, and COVID's so bad in Mississippi where Ms. Terrell died that the funeral home has quit taking people because all their people have got COVID, and they're having to store people somewhere else till they come back and get their workers out of quarantine.
So what I wanna know is when you came out of quarantine.
Thursday.
Okay, as long as it's not today.
No, Thursday.
Okay, Tara, anything? No. David, anything else? Okay, this meeting's adjourned.
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
We didn't ask the man who matters.
Oops.
Just 2 things, and I need some guidance from you all. You will recall that we have told you that we are working on redoing the city code. Kelly has done yeoman's work on this. David has read it until he's blue in the face and says, don't bring it back to me again. We have, and we've worked with MTS now need time with you all, because here's, the snapshot is, we're gonna redo the code, and what happens when we redo the code, we're required to every 10 years, but when you redo the city code, all of the ordinances that you have passed get put in as they are. Any that don't get in the recodification of the book that may have been there, like for example, just a small one that I'll talk to you about later on, we have an offense of drunk driving in our code book. We can't do drunk driving by ordinance. That's a state offense. Now, it's not that our officers can't deal with it, because what they do is they arrest people and take them to Sessions Court. We don't need an ordinance that says it's against the law to be found intoxicated while driving. And if we do this code, we'll take some stuff out, it'll be gone. Now, but you all need to know what you're gonna be voting on, and that means I've got to take some time to go through this with you, which means either at the next work session or at another special work session, since you all seem to like to have this stuff. And we need some direction. We don't have to have it tonight. You can talk with the city manager, and he can tell us what to do, but we don't have a time limit. We don't have to have this done by the end of September. But we have to keep on moving forward in order to get it done. So you all need to tell city manager what you wanna do. I strongly recommend that you give us at least 2 hours.
It needs its own meeting then, probably.
Definitely.
Every one that we've done so far with Kelly and the city manager and me and my staff have taken 2 hours. And you should see the city manager's eyes at the end of the 2 hour period.
Hey, at least y'all know the code, frontward and backward.
Yeah, and of course, the second part of that is a lot of discussion about codes enforcement, and that is sort of on hold until we get this taken care of.
Yep.
And I just wanted you all to be aware of where we were.
So we need to be looking at a date and time for a special call meeting.
Yeah, it'd probably be good, and maybe in the month of October.
We can tag it to, but you all sound like you just filled up the October work session.
We could do it that night. You know, you might want to bring dinner, but it's not going to be a quick conversation, and I don't think it's one of those that you all want to just say, y'all do whatever, and you know,
Right.
you're going to want to look through this, because again, it's something we only do once every 10 years. So thankfully.
If it's gonna be 2 hours, I don't know that we wanna do it with a work session, do we? Or,
Well, it depends on how heavy that agenda is for that work session.
yeah.
I mean, heck, county commission has 5-hour meetings. So, I mean, if we gotta put the time in, we've gotta put the time in.
We've had some of those in years past. We do not want to go back to that yet.
No.
And
There's really no way to do this and give it the attention it needs without just going like we've done multiple times, just going
Specifically just for
section
that.
by section,
Yep.
and here's what we're changing, here's what, you know, we can be as in-depth as you all want us to be, or as vague as you want us to be, but to do it right, I think we need to just put you all through the joy, share the joy that we've had with you guys.
So I guess, David, look and see how packed our workshop agenda is gonna be for October, and see if we need to bring our pajamas if we have it that night, or if we wanna do a special
I'm
call.
open for anything, yeah.
October the 19th, that's the next Tuesday, you got a work session, council, and have another work session on the 19th.
Planning commission, that's not at that night at 6. Yeah, there is a
So-
4th Tuesday.
So if we did it prior to the October council meeting, would we be ready to vote on something in October, or would it probably be November?
No, it'll be November, because, and remember, we've got to have 2 readings once we do it.
Yeah.
We have to, when you all adopt the restructured code, it's just like any other ordinance, you have to go through 2 readings. So we'll be into November and December anyhow. And some of you all may be of the opinion that you won't sit down and read the redone thing word for word, page for page. We certainly can make it available.
speaking of planning commission, with the change in the planning commission, is that in the charter or is that in the planning and ordinance regulations?
So it's not, that would be, and that's something else there's a few changes that are gonna have to be made in the zoning regulations. A lot of that's just gonna be changing verbiage from regional to municipal. I mean, there's a few changes there. The biggest question about that is gonna be
The size of planning commission.
if you all wanna make any changes to the composition.
And you can do that. So if we left planning and zoning chapter, that happens to be chapter. If you left it just like it is right now, that does not mean that you can't in January go
Right.
back and redo it like you do everything else. That's not a problem. It's just, I wanna get as much of this right
The first time.
as I can this time around.
Does this have to carry back to the legislator for them to adopt?
It does not. This is on you all.
And it's however y'all wanna do it, obviously.
How big a
My
meeting y'all got
recommendation would
tonight,
be a standalone
Nothing yet.
workshop to do this, but.
Let y'all have yours and us go
I
after them.
tell you what, of course we don't, Kelly, do we know what our agenda is by this coming Friday?
This Friday will be the deadline for September.
So we'll know by Friday if I can cancel that meeting or not.
Pencil in that Tuesday
Yeah.
for workshop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which one are we talking about?
The,
To the 19th,
Maybe that's for this.
the 19th.
oh, wait,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of this month.
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
But we'll all be gone?
Well,
No.
we already have a special call meeting this month on the 28th.
Yeah.
We'll know October the 8th if we have anything.
October the 8th, we'll know.
Pencil in
The 19th.
The
And
19th.
if you've just got one thing, y'all can always meet on your, if it's not a heavy agenda.
Right.
And then us
I
do your
think that,
grid.
yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
fine date.
But wouldn't want to bump you if you got something, you know,
Yeah.
with subdivision coming in or something.
Right.
That you got to have.
I mean, I think we'll probably talk about subdivision, RV park regulations and then vote. And that may be the only thing that's on that night. So October 19th is good.
Okay.
That's all
Is
I
that good
have,
for everybody else?
Mr. Chairman.
Tara? Randy, is that good for y'all? That's not good for you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're adjourned again.
A barbecue?
No, it's something in the mail yesterday, said September 20th, the city elected.
Oh, that's Chamber of Commerce.